The message appeared in our family group chat at 7:43 p.m. on a Tuesday. Augusta, we think it's best you step away for now. My fingers froze over the screen as I watched my Aunt Carol react with a thumbs up. 13 years of supporting them, and this was my reward. I typed back slowly. Understood. I'll respect that and step away from the family fund too. That night, I closed my contribution. By 3:30 a.m., my phone erupted with calls. Dad's panicked voicemails said it all. What happened? The bank flagged everything. I stared at my phone as it buzzed for the 31st time. Cousin Gareth, reject call. Aunt Nancy, reject call. Uncle Patrick, reject call. Mom, reject call. Dad again, reject call. The sun had barely risen, and I already had 37 missed calls. Text messages flooded in, each more frantic than the last. Augusta, pick up now, from Dad. What have you done, from Uncle Patrick? The bank is asking questions. Call me back immediately, from Gareth. I sat on my balcony, coffee in hand, watching the city wake up while my family imploded. After that group message telling me to step away, this panic felt like justice. But the story didn't start here. To understand, we need to go back 3 years. My grandfather, Thomas Callahan, had always been the family patriarch, wealthy from decades in real estate development. When his health began failing, he gathered all of us at his sprawling main estate and announced the creation of the Callahan Family Support Fund. This will be our legacy, he explained, his voice weaker than I remembered, but his eyes still sharp. A way for this family to support each other through hard times and good. We take care of our own. The structure was simple. Family members would contribute what they could afford, and anyone in need could apply for assistance, medical bills, education costs, even help with down payments for homes. My grandfather seeded it with $2 million. As the most financially successful grandchild with my career at Westridge Investment Partners, I became the primary contributor after grandfather passed. 40% of the fund came from me alone, while the rest of the extended family combined covered the remaining 60. My cousin Gareth, with his accounting background, volunteered to manage the books. Everyone agreed this arrangement made sense. 2 weeks ago, we had our quarterly family gathering at my parents' lake house. Between plates of Mom's famous pot roast and my Aunt Nancy's apple pie, Gareth distributed the fund's quarterly report. As you can see, the fund remains strong despite market fluctuations, he said proudly, pointing to colorful charts. But something caught my eye. A line item labeled administrative fees that seemed excessive for a family fund. When I asked about it, the room grew tense. Those are necessary expenses, Augusta, my father said, exchanging a glance with Uncle Patrick. Running something like this isn't free, Uncle Patrick added. But $25,000 in fees this quarter alone? I questioned. That seems high for a fund managed by family. Gareth cleared his throat. There are legal costs, banking fees, tax preparation services. I let it go that night, but something felt wrong. My financial instincts were screaming. So I hired Eleanor Matthews, a private financial investigator recommended by a colleague. Give me 2 weeks, she promised. I'll trace where every penny is going. Her report arrived yesterday morning, just hours before that family group message. What she found made me sick to my stomach. Gareth had been embezzling substantial amounts through inflated administrative fees, fake vendor payments, and phantom expenses. Worse, the transaction pattern suggested my father and Uncle Patrick not only knew about it, but were receiving portions of these diverted funds. Now I understood the timing of their message asking me to step away. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. The bank froze everything. What did you do? I replied simply, I'm honoring your decision. What they didn't know was that my contribution to the fund wasn't just significant, it was structured. My grandfather and I had privately added stipulations when I agreed to be the primary contributor. Any withdrawal of more than 30% of the fund's value would trigger an automatic financial review.
And when I closed my contribution last night, it automatically reduced the fund by 40%. The bank's fraud department, already monitoring for suspicious activity patterns thanks to Eleanor's quiet inquiries, immediately flagged the accounts and froze everything pending investigation. My phone buzzed again. A text from Gareth. "You have no idea what you've done." But I did know exactly what I'd done, and I was just getting started. I opened Eleanor's file again, focusing on something even more disturbing than the embezzlement. She'd discovered multiple documents with my signature that I never signed. They'd been forging my name on financial paperwork for months. As I dug deeper into the transactions, a pattern emerged. Large sums were flowing from the family fund into Callahan Construction, my father's struggling business. The business I'd been told was doing fine when I offered financial help last year. "We don't need your money," Dad had insisted. "The company is stronger than ever." Now I understood why. He already had my money, taken without my knowledge through the family fund. I felt sick realizing the truth. The fund wasn't just supporting family members through tough times, it was illegally propping up my father's failing business, with Gareth cooking the books and everyone else looking the other way. The final piece clicked into place when I found transfers to offshore accounts in the Caymans. This wasn't just fraud against me. This was tax evasion and money laundering, criminal activities that could send people to prison. People, including my own father. As dawn broke fully, I made myself another cup of coffee and waited for the storm I knew was coming. They weren't just panicking about losing access to my money. They were terrified of what the bank would find now that they were looking. And they should be. The pounding on my apartment door started at 9:15 in the morning. Through the peer hole, I saw my father's flushed face, my mother's worried expression, and Uncle Patrick's barely contained rage. I considered not answering, but this confrontation was inevitable. I opened the door, but blocked the entrance. "I'm surprised you came in person after telling me to step away." "What the hell did you do?" my father demanded, attempting to push past me into the apartment. I stood firm. "I am respecting your wishes," I said calmly. "You wanted me to step away from the family, so I stepped away from the family fund, too." "You know damn well what would happen," Uncle Patrick's voice boomed down the hallway. My neighbor across the hall opened her door slightly, then quickly closed it. "Let's not do this in the hallway," I said, finally stepping aside. Once inside, my father paced my living room while my mother perched nervously on the edge of my sofa. Uncle Patrick remained standing, arms crossed over his chest. "The bank is asking questions," my father said, his voice lower but still intense. "They're reviewing every transaction for the past 3 years. "And why would that concern you?" I asked, though I knew exactly why. The silence stretched for several seconds before my father sank into a chair. "Augusta, you don't understand what you've done."
"Then explain it to me," I challenged. "Explain why $40,000 in administrative fees disappeared every quarter. Explain why my signature appears on documents I never signed. Explain why money from a family support fund is flowing into Callahan Construction." My mother's face went pale. Uncle Patrick cursed under his breath. "You had no right to investigate us," my father finally said. "So you knew," I said. "It wasn't a question." "It's complicated," my father replied, running a hand through his graying hair. "The construction business hit hard times after the pandemic. Banks wouldn't extend more credit. I had obligations to meet, employees counting on me." "So you stole from your own daughter? From the fund meant to help family members in need?" "Borrowed," he corrected. "I was going to pay it all back once we landed the West Side development contract." "Which might never happen," I pointed out. "And what about Gareth skimming money, the offshore accounts, the tax evasion?" Uncle Patrick stepped forward. "You need to fix this, Augusta. Call the bank, tell them it was a misunderstanding." I laughed without humor. "Are you serious? You want me to lie to the bank about financial fraud? That would make me an accomplice." "You're already implicated," my father said quietly. "Your signature is all over the paperwork." "Forged paperwork," I corrected. "I have proof my signatures were falsified." My mother spoke for the first time, her voice barely above a whisper. "Augusta, please.
This could destroy the entire family. You should have thought about that before you started stealing. I moved toward the door, signaling the end of the conversation. I think you should leave now. My father stood, but made no move toward the door. If this continues, everyone gets hurt. Your grandmother's medical treatments, Jenna's kids' college funds, everything. Is that what you want? The emotional blackmail was the last straw. Don't you dare put that on me. You're the ones who betrayed the family, not me. Now get out before I call the police. They left, but not without my father's parting words. You'll regret this, Augusta. The family won't forget what you've done. 2 hours later, my sister Jenna called, sobbing. Grandma needs her heart medication refilled, but the fund card was declined. Dad says it's because of you. How could you do this to her? To all of us? The manipulation was so transparent, it would have been laughable if it weren't so effective. I felt the knife twist in my gut, despite knowing I wasn't the villain here. I'll handle Grandma's medication, I promised. But Jenna, there's something you need to know about what's really happening with the fund. Save it, she snapped. We all know you're just angry because Dad didn't give you control of the business. You've always been jealous of Gareth's position in the family. I was stunned into silence. What lies had they been spreading about me? After arranging for Grandma's prescription delivery and payment, I drove to the assisted living facility where she lived. I needed to see her, to make sure she was okay, and maybe to find one family member who wouldn't vilify me. Grandma Dorothy had always been my ally, sharp as a tack even at 86. When I entered her room, her face lit up. Augusta, what a wonderful surprise! I hugged her, fighting back tears. How are you feeling, Grandma? Oh, these old bones keep creaking along, but something's wrong. I can see it in your face. I hesitated, not wanting to burden her with family drama, but Grandma had a way of extracting the truth. The family fund, I finally said. There's been some irregularities. Her expression changed subtly. Thomas always worried about that. Grandpa? What do you mean? She sighed deeply. Your grandfather wasn't just setting up that fund for family support. He was trying to make amends. Amends for what? Your grandfather had a gambling problem for many years. He lost a great deal of money, borrowed from some dangerous people. The real estate success came later, but by then the debts had grown. Your father helped him handle it. Handle it how? She looked away. I don't know all the details, but I know your father took over some of those obligations when Thomas died. The family fund was part of that arrangement somehow. My mind raced. Was the family fund connected to paying off gambling debts? Was that where some of the money was going? This added an entirely new dimension to what I had discovered. When I returned home, something felt wrong the moment I opened my door. Items were slightly out of place. A drawer not fully closed. Someone had been in my apartment. I did a quick inventory. My laptop was missing. So were the files I'd printed from Eleanor's report. The break-in was targeted. They knew exactly what they were looking for. I called building security. The guard arrived promptly and pulled up the surveillance footage. There he was. Uncle Patrick, using a key I never gave him, entering my apartment 2 hours ago while I was visiting Grandma. Do you want to file a police report? The guard asked. I hesitated. Filing a report would escalate this situation beyond repair, but they'd stolen my property and violated my home. Yes, I decided. I do. While waiting for the police to arrive, I checked my secure cloud storage. Thank goodness I'd uploaded Eleanor's complete report. I still had the evidence. I also checked my credit reports, a precaution that proved prescient. There were 3 new credit cards in my name that I'd never applied for, all maxed out to their $20,000 limits, all opened within the last 6 months. My father had been stealing my identity. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. Not just embezzlement from the fund, not just forged signatures, but actively destroying my financial reputation while pretending to care about me. As I gave my statement to the police officer, I felt a strange calm replacing the hurt. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about justice, and I would get it no matter the cost. The call from Stephanie, my boss at Westridge Investment Partners, came at 8:30 Monday morning. Her voice was uncharacteristically formal. "Augusta, can you come to the conference room now, please?" When I arrived, Stephanie wasn't alone. Bernard from legal and Keith from compliance sat beside her, their expressions grave. A woman I didn't recognize introduced herself as a representative from the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority. My stomach dropped. "Miss Callahan, we've received some concerning information," Stephanie began, sliding a folder across the table. Inside were transaction records from the Callahan Family Fund with my signature authorizing transfers to various business entities, including several that were on regulatory watch lists. "These aren't my signatures. I never authorized these transactions." "The signatures match your employment documents," Bernard pointed out, "because they were forged from those documents. I've already filed a police report about identity theft and fraud. My family members are responsible for this." The FinRev representative leaned forward. "Miss Callahan, you understand how serious these allegations are. If you were involved in these transactions, the consequences would be severe."
"I wasn't involved," I insisted. "I'm the victim here." 2 hours of intense questioning later, they reached no conclusion. "The investigation will continue, but in the meantime, we're placing you on administrative leave," Stephanie said, not meeting my eyes. "Paid, of course, but you'll need to surrender your building access and company devices until this is resolved." I was being pushed out of the career I'd spent a decade building. As I packed my personal items under the watchful eye of security, I noticed colleagues averting their gaze. Rumors spread fast in finance. By noon, my reputation would be in tatters. My phone buzzed with a text from my boyfriend, Nate. "Need to talk. Dinner tonight?" At least I had Nate. We'd been dating for 8 months, and while it wasn't quite serious yet, he had become my rock. He would understand what I was going through. Dinner at Nate's apartment should have been comforting. Instead, he seemed distant, checking his phone repeatedly. "Everything okay?" I asked after his third glance at the screen during appetizers. "Just work," he said dismissively. "So, this situation with your family, it sounds pretty serious." I poured out the whole story. The fraud, the identity theft, being placed on leave. Nate listened, but something in his expression didn't feel right. "What?" I finally asked. He sighed. "Augusta, I have to ask, is there any possibility you were involved, even unknowingly?" The question felt like a slap. "Of course not. How can you even ask that?" "It's just, your father called me last week." I froze. "My father called you? Why?" Nate shifted uncomfortably. "He said you were having some kind of breakdown, that you were making wild accusations about the family. He was concerned about you." "And you believed him without talking to me first?" "I didn't know what to believe. He's your father, Augusta." I grabbed his phone from the table. He lunged for it, but too late. There they were, dozens of text exchanges between Nate and my father, going back months. "How long has this been going on?" My voice was deadly quiet. "Your dad reached out after we met at that charity gala. He was interested in some investment opportunities I mentioned." The charity gala was 6 weeks after we started dating. "So that's what this relationship has been about. Financial connections through me?" "No, I mean, not entirely." His expression confirmed what his words tried to deny. "Get out," I whispered. "This is my apartment," he reminded me. I grabbed my purse and coat. "Then I'll leave. We're done, Nate." Walking home through the chilly evening, I felt utterly alone. No job, no boyfriend, no family I could trust. I'd never felt so isolated. When I checked my email later that night, a message from an anonymous account caught my attention. The subject line read, "Callahan Family Fund, more than you know." The message contained no text, just attachments. Documents linking the family fund to several shell companies connected to known money laundering operations. Financial statements showing money flowing into political campaign funds. Evidence of systematic tax fraud going back years. This was bigger than family embezzlement.
This was organized financial crime. Before I could process this new information, my phone pinged with a banking alert. My accounts had been frozen, all of them. A second alert informed me of suspicious activity requiring immediate verification. When I called the bank, the representative confirmed that a court order had been placed on my accounts pending investigation of financial fraud. They were framing me, trying to destroy my financial life completely. I checked my credit score. It had plummeted 200 points in 3 days. The fraudulent credit cards in my name were just the beginning. There were loan applications, missed payments, collection notices, a systematic destruction of my credit history. As I sat in my darkening apartment, my phone lit up with a text from an anonymous account. It contained just one image, a document outlining a plan to establish me as the mastermind of the family's financial crimes. My father's name was at the bottom. They weren't just trying to silence me. They were setting me up to take the fall for everything. I'd never felt more betrayed or more determined to fight back. Morning brought clarity along with a plan. I couldn't stay in my apartment. They had a key and knew where to find me. I couldn't access my frozen bank accounts, but I did have a substantial cash emergency fund in my home safe, something my financial planner mind had insisted upon years ago. I packed essentials into one suitcase, emptied the safe of $12,000 cash, and checked into a mid-range hotel downtown under a variation of my name, Augusta Calzoun, instead of Callahan. Simple, but effective temporary camouflage. From my new base of operations, I called the one person I knew could help, Madeline Torres, forensic accountant and former college roommate who now ran her own financial investigation firm. "Someone's trying to frame you?" she asked after I explained the situation. "Family financial fraud is my specialty. I'm in." Madeline arrived at my hotel room 3 hours later with a laptop, portable scanners, and determination in her eyes. "First, we document everything," she explained. "Every transaction, every forged signature, every unauthorized account. Then we follow the money trail to see where it all leads." For the next 3 days, we worked. I provided all the information I had from Eleanor's initial investigation, plus the anonymous email. Madeline brought her expertise and access to financial databases most people didn't even know existed. "Look at this," Madeline said on day 3, pointing to her screen. "The money from the family fund isn't just going to your father's construction company. It's being cycled through 6 different shell companies before landing in various personal accounts." The list of beneficiaries stunned me. My father, Uncle Patrick, Gareth, and 3 names I didn't know. "Who are these people?" I asked. "I'm working on that," Madeline replied. "But more importantly, look at these tax filings. Your father's construction company should have collapsed years ago. It's been operating at a massive loss while somehow continuing to fund your father's lifestyle." "Money laundering," I concluded. "Classic case. And it gets worse. These political donations coming from the shell companies, that's illegal campaign finance activity. My family wasn't just stealing from me. They were engaged in a serious criminal conspiracy." As we pieced together the extent of the fraud, my phone rang with my mother's number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Augusta?" Her voice sounded thin, fragile. "Please don't hang up." "What do you want, Mom?" I didn't know. I swear I didn't know how bad it was. Your father kept me in the dark about the details. I wanted to believe her. "What exactly didn't you know about? The identity theft? The credit cards in my name?" "That was too far." She was crying now. "I just thought he was borrowing from the family fund temporarily. He promised he'd pay it back." "Mom, this goes far beyond borrowing. This is organized crime." Silence stretched between us. Then, "Can we meet? Just you and me? I want to explain." Every instinct told me it was a trap, but this was my mother. "Public place only," I insisted. "The cafe at the art museum, tomorrow at 2. Madeline strongly objected to the meeting. "They're trying to locate you." "I know, but if my mother's genuinely in the dark, she deserves to understand what's happening." The museum cafe was busy with afternoon visitors, exactly what I wanted. I arrived early, chose a table with clear sightlines to all entrances, and waited. Mom appeared exactly at 2, looking older and more tired than I remembered from just days ago. As she sat down, I noticed her hands trembling.
Are you okay? I asked, despite myself. No, Augusta, I'm not. None of us are. She reached for my hand, but I kept mine firmly around my coffee cup. Your father is devastated by what's happened between you two. Devastated that he got caught, you mean? Her eyes darted around nervously. You don't understand the pressure he's been under. After your grandfather died, the debts. Gambling debts, right? Grandma told me. She seemed surprised. Yes, but there were others too. Business loans that went bad. Your grandfather left your father with a mess to clean up. So that justifies stealing from the family? From me? No, but... Her gaze fixed on something over my shoulder. I turned slightly to see a man at a nearby table quickly look away. He seemed vaguely familiar. Who's that? I asked quietly. Mom pretended not to understand. Who? The man watching us. Did Dad send him? Augusta, you're being paranoid. But I wasn't. When I went to the restroom later, I glimpsed the same man taking photos of our table with his phone. This meeting wasn't about reconciliation, it was reconnaissance to determine my location. Back at the table, I decided to test my mother. The identity theft really hurt, Mom, especially the Citibank card maxed out to $20,000. There was no Citibank card. All the fraudulent cards were from different banks. Mom nodded sympathetically. I told him that was wrong. The Citibank situation crossed a line. My heart sank. She knew everything. She was fully complicit and now actively helping them find me. I have to go, I said, standing abruptly. Augusta, please. Tell Dad his spy needs better surveillance training, I nodded toward the man, who immediately looked away again, and tell him I have copies of everything. Every transaction, every forged document, every shell company. The color drained from her face. What are you going to do? What I should have done from the beginning. Protect myself. I left through the museum's secondary exit, took a circuitous route back to the hotel, and checked out immediately. They knew I was in the city. I needed a new location. That evening, in a different hotel, Madeline and I made an astonishing discovery. A series of audio recordings stored in a password-protected cloud account linked to one of the family fund email addresses. Can you access it? Already working on it, Madeline replied, her fingers flying over the keyboard. And we're in. The recordings were labeled by date, going back 18 months. We played the most recent one from 2 weeks ago. My grandmother's voice came through first. I don't like these secret recordings, but I need protection. Then my father. The West Side contract is delayed again. We need another $100,000 to cover payroll this month. Uncle Patrick. Take it from the fund. Augusta won't notice if we adjust the quarterly reports. Gareth. She's getting suspicious. Asked about the administrative fees last week. My father again. Handle it. If she keeps asking questions, we'll have to distance her from the fund. Make it look like her idea. My grandmother. I won't be part of framing my granddaughter. Uncle Patrick. Nobody's framing anybody. We're just managing a difficult situation. The recording continued with detailed discussions of moving money between accounts, creating false documentation, and plans to restructure the fund to reduce my oversight. Your grandmother was protecting you, Madeline said quietly. She was gathering evidence. We listened to recording after recording, each more damning than the last. My grandmother had documented it all. The fraud, the identity theft, the plans to frame me if I discovered the truth. This was exactly what we needed. But before we could celebrate this breakthrough, my phone pinged with an email notification. It was from my father's attorney, a formal legal notice accusing me of embezzlement, defamation, and corporate espionage. They were demanding immediate cessation of my false claims and threatening criminal charges. Attached to the email was a document with dozens of transactions bearing my digital signature. Transactions I never authorized. Gareth had used my digital signature for years. They were accelerating their plan to frame me. We needed to move faster. The next morning, I met with Sharon Davis, an attorney specializing in financial crimes, whom Madeline had recommended. "This is quite a situation," Sharon said, after reviewing our evidence. "Your family has created an impressive web of financial fraud. Can you help me?" "Absolutely. First step, emergency injunctions to prevent further identity theft and fraudulent use of your name. Second step, present evidence to the authorities about the larger criminal enterprise." "Will I get dragged down with them?" Sharon shook her head. "Not if we move aggressively to establish you as the whistleblower. The recordings your grandmother made are particularly valuable, clear evidence that you were being targeted, not participating." By that afternoon, Sharon had filed emergency motions to protect my identity and financial standing. By evening, she had scheduled meetings with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division and the District Attorney's Office. "Fair warning," Sharon cautioned, "this will tear your family apart, even more than it already has. You prepared for that?" I thought about my father's betrayal, my mother's complicity, the systematic way they'd planned to destroy me to save themselves. They already made that choice. I'm just bringing it to light. 2 days later, legal notices went out to every member of the Callahan family. Sharon had structured them carefully. Those implicated in the fraud received formal legal warnings about potential criminal charges, while those not involved received explanations of what was happening and why their family fund had been frozen. The family exploded. My phone blew up with messages ranging from furious accusations to confused questions. I answered none of them. Instead, I focused on working with the authorities, providing every piece of evidence we'd gathered. The FBI was particularly interested in the political donation angle, while local prosecutors focused on the identity theft and fraud aspects. On the 5th day of what I now thought of as my exile, I received a text from my cousin Tyler, one of the younger members of the extended family. "Can we talk? Not everyone is against you." I agreed to a video call, suspicious but hopeful. Tyler appeared on screen along with his sister, Amanda. Both looked nervous. "Uncle Carl told us we need to make statements about how you've always been jealous of the family business. They want us to say you threatened to destroy the family if you couldn't control the fund." Amanda nodded. "They're coaching everyone on what to say, but we know it's not true. We've seen how they operate, the way they pressure people, manipulate situations. We want to help you." Their support brought the first tears I'd shed through this whole ordeal. "Thank you," I managed to say. "That means more than you know." "There's something else," Amanda said. "Aunt Nancy wants to talk to you. She says she has information." Aunt Nancy was my father's sister, always somewhat distant from the family business. I'd always assumed she was just uninterested, but perhaps there was more to it. Our meeting took place at her small flower shop after closing hours. Nancy locked the door behind me and drew the blinds. "I've been waiting for this to collapse for years," she said, pouring us both tea. "My brother has been running cons since we were teenagers. Our father, your grandfather, tried to rein him in, but he just got better at hiding it." "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked. "I did. At the beginning. Nobody listened. Charles was the golden boy who could do no wrong." She sipped her tea. "So I distanced myself, built my own life. But I've kept records, Augusta. Every time I noticed something suspicious, every concerning conversation, I documented it all." Nancy's records, combined with my grandmother's recordings and our financial evidence, created an overwhelming case. When Sharon presented it to the authorities, they moved quickly. Meanwhile, through business contacts, I learned that my father and Gareth were frantically destroying evidence. Computer drives were being wiped, documents shredded, financial records altered. "Too late," Sharon assured me when I reported this. "We have the originals. They're just adding obstruction of justice to their charges." The FBI suggested setting up one final piece of evidence, gathering a recorded family meeting where I would wear a wire. "It's risky," the agent explained, "but if we can get them talking openly about the scheme, it would seal the case." Against Sharon's advice, I agreed.
An emergency family meeting was arranged at my parents' house, ostensibly to discuss a settlement offer from me. Every key player would be there: my father, Uncle Patrick, Gareth, and several others involved in the fraud. I arrived wired and terrified. My father answered the door with a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Augusta, thank you for being reasonable, finally." The living room was full of family members, their expressions ranging from hostility to weariness. I took a deep breath and launched into my prepared opening. "I'm willing to drop everything if you can convince me there's been a misunderstanding." My father relaxed visibly, believing I was caving. "Of course there's been a misunderstanding. Those transactions you're concerned about were all legitimate business operations. Like the shell companies, the political donations, the credit cards in my name." I kept my voice calm, each word captured by the recording device. "Business necessities," my father replied dismissively. "Sometimes the line between personal and business gets blurred in family operations." Uncle Patrick jumped in. "The important thing is that we're all on the same page moving forward. The fund stays intact. You resume your contributions. We handled the bank's concerns together." "And my role would be what exactly?" I asked. "You'd need to sign some documents explaining the recent transactions, confirming they were authorized by you." "So you want me to confess to the fraud you committed?" The room went silent. My father's expression hardened. "No one's talking about fraud," he said carefully. "We're talking about family loyalty." "Was it family loyalty when you stole my identity? When you planned to frame me if I discovered what you were doing?" "That's ridiculous," Uncle Patrick scoffed. "Is it? Should I play the recordings for everyone? The ones where you explicitly discuss setting me up to take the fall?" My father's face drained of color. "What recordings?" "Grandma Dorothy has been documenting your conversations for over a year. Did you really think she was just sitting there quietly while you plotted?" The room erupted. Accusations flew. Family members turned on each other instantly. In the chaos, Gareth snapped. "What was I supposed to do? The offshore accounts were Charles's idea. He said we needed to protect the assets." My father lunged at Gareth. "Shut up, you idiot!" "Offshore accounts?" someone asked. "The Cayman accounts," Gareth continued, panic making him reckless. $7 million moved through them last year alone. Ask Charles where that money came from." It was more than I'd hoped for. A complete confession in front of multiple witnesses, all captured on the wire. As the family meeting devolved further, I slipped out quietly. In the FBI van around the corner, agents were already preparing to move in with warrants. "You did well," the lead agent told me. "Very well." But I felt no triumph, only a profound sadness for what my family had become and what I had lost in the process of uncovering the truth. The arrests came swiftly after the recorded family meeting. My father, Uncle Patrick, Gareth, and 2 business associates were taken into custody. The charges were substantial: wire fraud, identity theft, money laundering, tax evasion, and conspiracy. News of the arrests spread through the family and the business community like wildfire. My phone filled with messages from relatives taking sides, some expressing shock and support, others calling me a traitor to the family. Sharon guided me through providing formal statements to various authorities. "The evidence is overwhelming," she assured me. "The case is solid. The prosecutors are freezing all the assets connected to the criminal activity. That includes the family fund and any personal accounts that received money from the scheme." This had immediate consequences. Family members who had legitimately relied on the fund for support suddenly found themselves without resources. My phone rang constantly with relatives facing financial emergencies: medical bills, mortgage payments, tuition installments. I did what I could, setting up a small emergency fund from my personal savings to help those truly in need, but it wasn't enough to help everyone, and the resentment grew. My mother appeared at my new apartment unannounced one evening, eyes red from crying. "How could you do this? Your own father in handcuffs. Do you know what that's done to our family name?" "Dad did this, Mom. Not me. I just exposed it." "They're saying he could go to prison for years." "Years, Augusta. Your father. He stole my identity. He was planning to frame me if I discovered what he was doing." "That's ridiculous." This went far beyond family disagreements. This was organized crime. She shook her head, unable or unwilling to accept the reality.
If you drop the charges, I can't drop federal charges, Mom. And even if I could, I wouldn't. Dad needs to face consequences for what he did. My mother's expression hardened. Then you're no longer my daughter. The words cut deep, but I held firm. I'm sorry you feel that way. After she left, I broke down completely. Despite everything they'd done, losing my family this way was devastating. The following week, my grandmother was hospitalized with chest pains. When I tried to visit, my sister Jenna blocked me at the door. Haven't you done enough damage? She hissed. Grandma collapsed when she heard about Dad's arrest. The doctors say the stress could kill her. The guilt was overwhelming, even though I knew logically I wasn't responsible for the consequences of my family's actions. I sent flowers and a note expressing my love and concern, but received no response. The preliminary hearings began 3 weeks after the arrests. Most of the defendants remained in custody, unable to make the high bail amounts due to their assets being frozen. Gareth, however, made bail unexpectedly through a bondsman. The court restricted his movements with an ankle monitor, but he was free while awaiting trial. Be careful, Sharon warned me. Gareth has the most to lose from your testimony. The recordings implicate him directly in almost every aspect of the fraud. I took precautions, varying my routines and installing a comprehensive security system in my apartment. But I underestimated Gareth's desperation. A package arrived at my door one morning. No return address, just my name printed in block letters. Inside was a USB drive. When I plugged it in, my blood ran cold. The drive contained surveillance photos of me entering my building, shopping at the grocery store, meeting with Sharon, jogging in the park. Some were taken from close range, others with a telephoto lens. All were recent. The message was clear. I was being watched. Sharon immediately contacted the FBI and the prosecutor's office. Gareth's bail conditions were reviewed, but without proof he had sent the package, there was little they could do except issue a warning. That night, I woke at 3 a.m. to an alert from my security system on my phone. Front door sensor disconnected. Fully awake instantly, I grabbed my phone and the canister of pepper spray I'd started keeping beside my bed. The bedroom door was closed. I heard faint sounds from the living room. Someone trying to be quiet, but not entirely succeeding. Heart pounding, I called emergency services, whispering my address and situation. Then I called the direct number for the FBI agent handling my case. Both promised to send people immediately. The footsteps grew closer to my bedroom. I positioned myself beside the door, pepper spray ready. When the door began to open, I held my breath. A shadowy figure entered. In the dim light from the window, I recognized Gareth's silhouette. He held something in his hand, a knife or tool of some kind. Before he could spot me in the darkness, I pressed the panic button on my security system remote. Immediately, blinding lights flooded the apartment, and a deafening alarm sounded. Gareth spun toward me, disoriented by the sudden light and noise. I discharged the pepper spray directly at his face. He screamed, dropping his weapon, a hunting knife, and clutching at his eyes. I ran for the front door, but Gareth recovered enough to lunge after me, grabbing my ankle. I fell hard, striking my head against the coffee table. Dazed but determined, I kicked free and scrambled toward the door again. Gareth tackled me from behind, his weight pinning me down. "You ruined everything," he growled, his hands finding my throat. As spots began to dance in my vision, the front door burst open. Police officers swarmed in, weapons drawn. Gareth was dragged off me and handcuffed, as paramedics rushed to my side. At the hospital, as a doctor treated my injuries, the FBI agent showed me what they'd found in Gareth's car: a plane ticket to Venezuela, a country with no extradition treaty with the United States, and a handwritten list of steps for assuming a new identity. "He wasn't just trying to intimidate you," the agent explained.
He was trying to eliminate you as a witness before fleeing the country. The agent hesitated before continuing. We also found text messages on Gareth's phone from your father. My heart sank. What did they say? Instructions to handle the Augusta situation permanently, and assurances that funds would be available once you were taken care of. My own father had arranged to have me killed. The reality of it was almost too much to bear. With this new evidence, my father's bail was revoked. Gareth faced additional charges of attempted murder, breaking and entering, and assault. The prosecutor added conspiracy to commit murder charges against my father. As I recovered from the attack, I received an unexpected visitor, Aunt Nancy, carrying home-cooked meals and genuine concern. The family is falling apart, she told me. Everyone's choosing sides. Your mother and Jenna are standing by your father, but others are starting to see the truth, especially after what happened with Gareth. And Grandma? I asked tentatively. Nancy smiled, getting stronger every day. She's been asking for you. My reunion with Grandma Dorothy was tearful, but healing. I'm so sorry for what they put you through, she said, holding my hand tightly. I tried to gather evidence to protect you, but I never imagined it would go this far. You saved me, Grandma, I told her truthfully. Your recordings broke the case wide open. As the criminal proceedings advanced, the full extent of the family's criminal enterprise became clear. The corruption went deeper than I even had suspected, touching political figures, development contracts, and millions in laundered funds.
The family fractured further as some accepted the deals while others maintained a code of silence. Through it all, I testified truthfully about everything I had discovered. Each day in court, facing my father's cold stare across the room, tested my resolve, but I refused to back down. The truth needed to be told, no matter how painful. The trials concluded almost a year after that fateful group message asking me to step away. The verdicts came in one by one, guilty on all major counts for my father, Gareth, and Uncle Patrick. Several other family members received lesser sentences for their roles in the conspiracy. My father was sentenced to 17 years in federal prison. As he was led away in handcuffs, he finally looked at me directly for the first time since the trials began. There was no remorse in his eyes, only cold anger. I realized then that he would never acknowledge the pain he had caused or the trust he had betrayed. In the aftermath, I faced the challenge of rebuilding my life. My professional reputation had suffered despite being vindicated. The financial industry thrives on trust, and the Callahan name was now associated with one of the biggest fraud cases in the state's history. Surprisingly, it was my mother who reached out first after the sentencing. I was wrong, she admitted during a tense coffee meeting. I believed in your father blindly because it was easier than facing the truth. And now? I asked cautiously. Now I'm trying to understand how I missed the signs for so many years. She twisted her wedding ring nervously. I filed for divorce. I can't stand by him anymore. Not after what he did. Especially not after he tried to... She couldn't finish the sentence. My sister Jenna took longer to come around. Her husband had lost his job due to connections with Callahan Construction, and they were struggling financially and emotionally. But eventually, she too reached out. I should have trusted you, she said simply when we finally met. I'm sorry. Slowly, painfully, parts of the family began to heal. Not everyone reconciled, some relationships were damaged beyond repair, but a core group emerged, committed to honesty and rebuilding trust. With the criminal cases concluded, I focused on helping the innocent victims of my family's fraud. I established the Callahan Restoration Foundation, using my portion of the recovered assets to provide support for family members who had legitimately relied on the now-defunct family fund. Grandmother Dorothy moved into a guest house on my new property, her health improving once freed from the stress of family secrets. Together, we created guidelines for the foundation that emphasized transparency, accountability, and genuine need. This is what your grandfather Thomas originally wanted, she told me as we reviewed applications for assistance.
a way for family to support each other without conditions or manipulation. My professional life took an unexpected turn when Westridge Investment Partners approached me with an offer to return, not to my old position, but as director of their newly expanded compliance department. "Your experience makes you uniquely qualified," Stephanie explained. "You spotted fraud that fooled professionals for years. We need that expertise." I accepted the position, determined to use my painful experience to protect others from similar schemes. My team and I developed enhanced verification procedures that became industry standards for detecting family-based financial fraud. My personal life healed more slowly. Trust didn't come easily after Nate's betrayal, but eventually I met Marshall through a financial ethics conference. He was a prosecutor specializing in white-collar crime who valued integrity above all else. Our relationship developed gradually, built on mutual respect and understanding of what I'd been through. "You stood up against your entire family because it was right. That kind of moral courage is rare," he told me on our 5th date. 2 years after that family group message, we gathered for a very different kind of family event, a small Thanksgiving dinner with those who had remained loyal or found their way back: Grandmother Dorothy, Aunt Nancy, cousins Tyler and Amanda, and a few others who had distanced themselves from the criminal activities. I've learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about trust, respect, and honesty. Sometimes the family you choose is more real than the family you're born into. As we rebuilt our relationships on this new foundation, I received occasional updates about my father and the others serving their sentences. Some showed remorse and sought forgiveness. Others remained bitter and unrepentant. I had made peace with the fact that some relationships might never be restored. The family that emerged from this crucible was smaller but stronger. We established new traditions based on transparency and mutual support. The Callahan name, so tarnished by crime, began to stand for something positive again through the Foundation's work. On the 3rd anniversary of that fateful group message, I received an unexpected communication, a new group chat with my reformed family members. The message was simple: "Thank you for having the courage to stand for truth. We are better because of you." I had lost much in this journey: my original family structure, my sense of security, my naive trust. But I had gained something precious: authentic relationships built on honesty rather than obligation or manipulation. The empire my father had built through deception had crumbled, but from its ashes arose something far more valuable: a community founded on integrity. My contribution wasn't financial anymore, it was moral leadership. As I looked around at my new chosen family during our gathering, I realized that sometimes you have to lose what you thought you wanted to find what you truly need. My journey through betrayal had led to an unexpected destination: genuine connection and inner peace. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between family loyalty and doing what's right? Sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most meaningful growth. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment sharing your thoughts or experiences with family conflicts and how you navigated them. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found value in my story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for more authentic life stories, and share with someone who might need to hear that sometimes standing alone for the truth is worth it. Wishing you the courage to face your own difficult truths with integrity and compassion.